The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
Welcome to another segment of UCW Radio, the UCW Radio Show. This is your host, Lou, a.k.a. Falcon Coparis, and I want to thank all of our listeners for the continued support as we continue to bring great guests on the show, and today is no different. But before I get into that, I need to let our listeners know, or actually supporters or sponsors, know that the UCW Radio Show is now taking on sponsorship partnerships. So if you have interest in partnering with the UCW Radio Show in a sponsorship capacity, feel free to reach out to us. Just go to ucwmagazine.com, contact us, and let's figure it all out. In just a little while, we're going to have a young actress that's just ramping up in her career from being featured in such films as Red Corvette and Princess and the Soldier to being featured on the TV program Maneater. She's well on her way to stardom as she gobbles up the indie film scene. And trust me, any indie film director, or any film director period, would be lucky to have her in their project. And I say this with all authority. This is all due to her unique background, which I will go into with her on the line in a minute. And before we bring her on the line, I want to say this. It is 9/11. It's been 8 years since the tragedy occurred. I am a native New Yorker, so this has affected me in my life. I witnessed for myself hundreds, if not thousands, of people walking across the bridges, leaving Manhattan, and going to Brooklyn and Queens and so on and so forth. And I just want to say that my prayers still go out to the families of those that lost a loved one during that horrific event, and it'll never be forgotten. And that's what I wanted to say. Anyway, so before we bring her on the line, I have to give our listeners some information. They can actually call us with their questions. You guys can call us with your questions, your comments. We want to hear from you. You can just go to ucwmagazine.com and find out who we're going to have on the show. We have interesting guests coming on, from actors and actresses, comedians, to pro wrestlers, to pro bodybuilders, pro athletes, to actual, fashion people, from designers to stylists to directors, so on and so forth, to even automakers. We're bringing on even soft drink makers that tie into entertainment. We're bringing them on the show. So we have a multitude of guests coming on. And again, it's to benefit our listeners. We try to make the show interesting. What you can do, we want to hear from you, so you can give us a jingle at 323-952-4369. That's 323-952-4369. And again, if you have something interesting, an interesting question or comment for any of our guests, feel free to call. And if it's interesting enough, we'll pose it to our guest. And if it's not interesting, well, guess what? It's not getting posed anywhere. It'll probably never make it to the show. But we want listeners to interact with the UCW Radio Show. That's why we want you to get in touch with us. Again, I'm going to repeat this. The UCW Radio Show has opened its doors to sponsorship partnerships, so marketers can actually find out more by going to ucwmagazine.com. And if you're on Twitter, then you can shoot me out some questions or comments and that type of stuff. And my Twitter name is Louis Velazquez. That's LouisVelazquez. And you can follow me, tweet away, and shoot me out your questions, comments. And you can hear what I have to say, too, because I do say some interesting stuff sometimes. Now, without further ado, let's patch in this up-and-coming Hollywood shining star. Trust me, you want to follow her career. Here is the multi-talented Joanna Ke. Joanna, it's great to have you on the UCW radio show. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you, Lou.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure having you here. We always appreciate the time that our guests put aside for us. Joanna, just so our listeners understand that, you were a model. You're not only a model, and you still do that, but you are also an up-and-coming actress. And I have to use those words loosely, up-and-coming, because you've been involved in some projects since 2007. You were on the TV show Maneater. You were in References. You performed in Red Corvette. This year, that all happened this year, and in 2008, you appeared in production was it Finger Food, and then Princess and the Soldier, where you were the princess. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked about that. In short, your career began to rise a couple of years ago, and then you made the leap to L.A. Like L.A. is the movie capital of the world. Please, well, yeah, it could be, but New York and other cities are building up too. But you moved over to L.A. and you also have a new project that you're involved in. But before we get into all of that, I want to start from the beginning. I want to tell people, I want them to visualize who Joanna Ke is, what you're about. So maybe we can start where, from this point. Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in Houston, Texas.
Ooh, yeehaw.
Yeah. Where we all wear cowboy hats and ride horses all the time.
There you go. Yippee-ki-yay. Yeah, but that's a big jump going from being a Texan or a Texas girl, then going into LA. But when you were in Houston, you got involved in modeling. How did that come about?
Well, it was something that I looked into after I realized that I was maybe too shy to act, and so I'm like, well, what is maybe something that's closely related?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought of modeling. It's something that I wouldn't have to open my mouth during. I wouldn't have to say anything, and I could be there and kind of be close to the industry that I was interested in, but not really have to take many risks. So when I was in high school still, my mom helped me to connect me with some people. I went to school at Page Parks
Mm-hmm.
in Houston, and they kind of got me on the right foot as far as modeling goes, teaching me about how to be in front of a camera and everything.
Well, how old were you when you started pursuing the modeling career?
Well, at that time I was in high school, and I was
Okay.
It's probably like 16 or 17.
And you were shy.
Oh yeah, I was a very, very shy kid.
Okay, so you're a beautiful young girl sitting in the corner by yourself. That's
pretty much.
That's sad. I have a tear rolling down my face. Oh my God.
Are you playing a violin for me?
Yeah, a little violin. Yeah, but it's interesting how you go from being a shy girl to wanting to go into modeling. What sparked your interest? Because did you see something in a magazine or TV? Did you say, "Hey, wow, I can do this too"?
Well, I think it was something that I know that I'd always kind of heard it, from random people. Oh, you should model, or oh, you're so beautiful, you could do that, you could be in that ad. And then I guess the more you hear something, and the more encouragement that you have about anything, you feel like it's more possible for you. So going to school for it was something that really helped me to gain confidence. I didn't, just jump into it and start doing photo shoots right away. I went to a school, and they helped me to understand the whole thing more, and then that helped me gain that confidence.
And you had support from your mom, from your dad. They supported you in your decision to pursue that?
Yeah, my mom definitely, she definitely supported me. But then it was something that just kind of went away. I did it, and it was just, I did it for about a year, and then I just kind of lost interest in it. It wasn't it wasn't something that I was really passionate about, and I really didn't start it again until, gosh, like 2004. So I was, it was years later, where I actually picked it up again.
Okay, so you took a break from it. You did it when you were younger. You took a break, and you were still a shy little girl, but then you wanted to pursue other interests. You probably went to school and did all that stuff. And then I don't know, then 2004, you said, okay, I want to start doing this again. What was it? Was it something that happened or something that someone said that said, hey, you know what? I should start doing this again?
Yeah, it was. There were several motivating factors behind the whole thing. I moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I went to school there. I actually went to school for digital media production. So I was going to school to become a director, and
check you out. That's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, it was kind of the similar thing as doing the modeling, and being the director is not really going after what I really wanted, but staying close to it. Right. So I got a little bit closer by going to school for video, and while I was there to make my way, I was working as a legal assistant at a law firm, and there was a girl that I worked with there, and she was talking to me about how she was going to do a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh wow, really? And I don't know, when I heard that, it just sparked something in me, and I really felt like I wanted to do it. And I ended up going and shooting with the same person that she shot with, the same photographer, and then since then it was just, I just kept going with it.
And you had photographers, reaching out for you at some point. They wanted to, photograph you.
Yeah, I'm I'm one of those people that I don't know if you call it a type A personality, where I feel like I can do everything at once. So I made it my mission to just perfect the art of modeling and learn everything I could. Okay. So I was shooting like every single weekend for a long time. I'd fit in as much as I could, and eventually, just because of that, people got to know my name and got to know my work, and yeah, people were seeking me out.
Well, that's interesting, because we have a lot of guests, as you know, on the show, and the one thing and this is one of the things that most of our guests have in common, is they, some things were thrust upon them. They may have tried doing something in the past, but some incident, something sparked in them, or something fell in their lap, and that opened the doors for them to do what they're doing today. Just like you, even though you did modeling when you were younger, if this person didn't tell you that they were doing a modeling shoot, you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Right.
It's that one incident, and for you, I mean, obviously things are building up for you, but you went from being a shy girl to doing this, and you're continuing to forge forward, and I find that great. I mean, you went to school to be a director. That's like, okay, but a lot of our guests, what happens is that what I see is that they wind up, when something falls in their lap, they wind up going out there and trying to find out all they can about what's in front of them, and they learn, they do research, and they learn, and that's one of the keys to being successful. You need to do your due diligence. You need to know what you're doing in order for you to perfect what you're doing. No matter what it is, you can be a toy maker. You should do your research to find out how other people are doing stuff and how you can make yourself better, and that's what you did.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's definitely one of the philosophies that I live by, and I think it was the casting director in Arizona. She had some quote on her page, and once I saw it, I just completely connected with it. And it's if you're not working, then you should be training, and that's completely how I feel and how I live my life.
No, that's interesting. That is an interesting quote. If you're not working, you should be training. Okay, we're gonna mark that one now, people. If you're not working, you should be training. No matter what you're doing, just do it. Now, Joanna, you went from the modeling scene, and you kind of slid into the world of acting, but you went from, again, the shy girl, modeling, and going into that, you chose to get involved in acting. You didn't choose to become a director. You chose to get into acting. And like you did with the modeling, you studied like a crazy person. I mean, over a dozen acting coaches.
Yeah.
Like, oh, holy crap! Like, it's like college for acting.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Did you feel that this was just a natural progression for you, or did you feel that this was something that you wanted to do in order to, I guess, embrace the entire concept of acting and making movies and all that stuff?
A natural progression as far as doing that much training?
Well, as far as going from modeling to acting, was that a natural progression for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Always in the back of my mind, acting was the thing that I wanted to do, and I just didn't have the confidence in myself to believe that it was possible for me. So the modeling really, really was something that helped me to get over the shyness, because you have to be in the spotlight, you have to be on, you have to be able to have that confidence in front of the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, in the beginning, I didn't realize how much it was really helping me. But eventually, after a couple of years, I realized that, oh wow, this is really nothing to me anymore. It's really easy. And because of that realization, I went ahead and took that next step to do what I really wanted to do, which was the acting.
It took you some time to get to that point, but in your normal life, you're still a shy person to a certain extent.
Yeah, I'm definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I like sitting quietly by myself, and I'm not a talker.
Okay.
I'm not the person that likes to sit there and be the center of attention all the time.
Except for this show, you're the center of attention. This show, okay.
For right now, yeah.
But that's interesting, because you went out and acting. I guess when you're out there and you're acting in front of the camera, it's a different world. It's a different world,
absolutely.
and you're able to break out of that shell and go, and like a lot of actors that we speak to, what happens? They go and they become the character. So now they're not themselves; they're someone else.
Right.
So you're able to express yourself a little better that way, and that's pretty cool. You're mainly doing indie flicks right now, but that is something I know that's bound to change very soon. It's going to probably happen sooner than later, and then when it happens, I'm telling you, it's going to be a situation like, oh, I don't know, Lou, forget about that guy, but that's okay. But can you tell us how, and I think our listeners would find this interesting, how your typical day is, or usually is, on the set of an indie film production? Because I know it varies, let's say, from a day on the set of when you did Maneater. Okay, because there's a lot of work involved, and I want our listeners to really understand from you that the end product, that's what they see on the television set or in the movie screen, or on the movie screen and all that other jazz. But there's a lot of work that goes on beforehand for an actor. The director and everyone else, they stagehands, they all have their job to do. But as an actor, you're working a lot of hours. So there's a lot that's involved in there before the finished product is done. So can you tell us about that journey with that?
The difference between Maneater and being on like an indie film set?
Yeah, but just with your typical day on an indie film set. Let's start with that. How does that work for you?
Well, indie films, it's so much more of like a family type atmosphere on set. You don't have a lot of people involved when it comes to an indie film, as opposed to like when I did Maneater, there's just so many people on set. You've got the same people that are coming to set every single day, and it's a small amount of people, so everybody gets to know each other really well whenever you're working on an indie film. And the other thing that that I found is pretty prevalent in most indie films is that things can go wrong a lot more often. Like the scheduling is not always consistent, but that's not a bad thing. You'll end up sitting around for hours because somebody's trying to find a location that fell out at the last second. Whereas, if you're working on a bigger project, that would never happen. That would never happen just because, it's whatever. It's Sony, it's NBC, it's whatever the big corporation is, and it's set in stone, and it's a big deal.
Yeah. But with the bigger, the bigger film companies like a Sony, Universal, things of that nature, obviously they have concessions with the states and so on and so forth. But they also have people that do the prep work, and they get the okay from the city to go film, and they're given a lot more leeway than an indie filmmaker would. And obviously they have the bank in order to do it. And the indie film, they're on a tight budget. So yeah, it's harder for them to go get something, and if something comes in at the last minute, God bless them. If not, then they have to switch up really quick.
So. Yeah, so you have to be a lot more flexible, I think, on an indie film set, just more patient. But just because all of these things can happen, I think that's what makes everybody grow closer, because everybody's going for the same thing, and we all understand that could happen, and that does happen. But we're all waiting there together, and we're all going to do it, no matter if it happens at 2 a.m. or, whatever time it is, we're all ready, and we're good to go, and we all know that we're there to work, and we're going to make it happen, no matter what happens.
And you guys work together as a team to get everything done, and that's, doing an indie film, for the most part, there's a lot of fulfillment there, but of course, every actor, their aspiration is to do bigger films or bigger TV and so on and so forth. But I just wanted our listeners to understand that, even though it's an indie film, it's not like you show up and you have one take and that's it. You can be, that's what I'm saying. You can do the take, 50 times and still it doesn't work for what they're looking to do.
Right.
But I mean, they try not to do that. Well, now everything's digital, so it has nothing to do with wasting film, but it has to do with wasting time. And these indie filmmakers, they want to get the film out as quickly as possible for all the festivals and so on and so forth. But there's still a lot of work. It's not like a short day.
Yeah, no. I don't think it's ever been a short day.
But when you did Maneater, again, that was a different scenario altogether, because even though you're on set with everyone else, you have a major production company doing it.
Right.
So you have your donuts and your whatever you have there. Maybe in the indie film, maybe you're lucky to get a cookie. But that's what happens. That's what happens.
Yeah,
you get and you hope it's chocolate chips, so you get some sugar in you, so you can survive the shoot. You get something going there. But it's just a different animal when you're around things. And with an indie film, I would think it'd be, even though it's a lot of work, it's more comfortable. But as an actor, you progress to the bigger things. Now, we were talking about this earlier, Joanna. You, when you were younger, you did speak Mandarin, and that's something as you got older, you didn't, either you use it or lose it type of thing. So
right.
you didn't practice, you didn't use it frequently, and even though you understand it, but you can kind of like. You can kind of have different accents for different films, right?
Yeah, absolutely. When needed,
okay.
I can.
Versatile. But your makeup is interesting. Your background, as far as your heritage is interesting, which gives you a unique look. Do you want to go over that for a second, so that our listeners understand, what your makeup is, and anyone that's in Hollywood that's listening can say, hey, you know what, she's interesting, and but if you can go into that, that'd be great.
Yeah, my mother is Taiwanese, and so I am half Taiwanese, and then the other half is all kinds of things that include Polish, Irish, Austrian. There's some other in there, but I don't remember what everything is. So all of my mom's family lives in Taiwan, and I was primarily raised in an Asian household, and that's why Mandarin was my first language, because I was raised by my grandmother. but then it just, I'm an American kid, and
Well,
I just kind of lost it after a little while.
I mean, your background, everything that you're composed of, yeah, it just makes you American, period, because everyone's mixed up with something. We're all mutts up in the American hood. We're all mutts, and that's a reality. But I do it, because your look is unique, and I just find that that for some people that may work in their favor, but for others it may be difficult to find roles that suit them. Now, for you, do you feel that works in your favor, or do you feel that it provides a hurdle in you finding the right roles for you?
It actually really works in my favor.
Okay.
It's something, it enables me to play a wide variety of different roles just because I can have different looks and not just looking Asian or looking Caucasian. I've had so many people ask me if I'm Native American. And I actually remember whenever I was in high school, I had, well, no, it was high school. I had long hair and I was really tan because I was in color guard.
Okay.
And so I had dark skin, long hair, and people would come up to me and they'd be speaking Spanish, and I'm like, what? I don't I don't understand. So it definitely helps me to be able to take on different roles just because I can have that the wide variety of looks.
Well, you're versatile with both the accents. You're also versatile with the looks that you can have, because you can. I saw a couple of your, I guess your photo shoots where they made you up like a geisha type of thing, and it's just interesting because your features are so different that just by changing your hair around and putting a certain makeup on you, that you actually look different.
Yeah.
And you fit into what they're looking to do, and I think that's great. Now, this is something that I found interesting. We're going to talk about this here, because I found out that you are a big paranormal sci-fi freakazoid. But that's in your private life. Let's talk about that, because when I heard that, I said, what? I said, well, no, we're bringing this up. So now you're going to talk about that. What's up with that?
It's one of these things. I think everybody has innate interests that I have no idea why I was born with it, but I always remember, like, when I was little and I was going to elementary, all the other girls, they were reading whatever popular novel. I think it was The Babysitter's Club. Everybody was reading those books.
Mm-hmm.
But I was reading like UFOs and aliens, and I remember I'd be like hiding my books because I didn't want to be embarrassed by anybody. It was just something, that I was always interested in, and I've read so much about, and like anything I could get my hands on, I've just always wanted to absorb that information, and I guess just because of my interest in that, I've always been interested more in like sci-fi type films and fantasy stuff.
Ah, so you're one of those Lord of the Rings type of people. Well, you want to hear something funny? I heard about Lord of the Rings for the longest time, and I never saw it. Didn't see it. Didn't know I saw. I mean, let me finish. They won awards, everything, and the girl that I'm with, she says you have to see it. I said, well, I'll see it maybe. I'll tell you, I'm really not into that. Which I am. I mean, I like movies like Highlander and stuff like that. So we had the box set. So I don't know. I got lazy one Sunday and I said, all right, I'm going to watch this. I watched the whole thing for 9 hours.
Whoa!
I said, yeah, but it was incredible. I kind of regretted not seeing it when they came out, but you know what? I liked it. I liked the fact that I was able to see it in sequence, so I finished the whole thing.
Oh yeah.
There's
no waiting.
It was me and a bag of well, not potatoes, but popcorn, and I was good to go. So were you one of those kids that when you were younger and you were you liked the paranormal stuff? Look at me, I'm tongue-tied. So you get me nervous. No, you like that type of stuff. Were you playing with the Ouija board and all that stuff? Were you looking for ghosts? What were you doing with that? Were you one of those types?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, ha ha! You see, I knew it. I knew it. Well, that's interesting. See, this gives our listeners a real look into who you are. You're just you're human like everyone else. We all
Yeah,
have our
absolutely.
things. Yeah, we all have our things that we enjoy in life. Whether it be sports, with you, sci-fi, paranormal, things of that nature. This is a part of life, people. People are people, especially in this world that we live in. No one lives on Mount Olympus, and that's a reality. And to the people. Anyway, so now we're gonna move forward, go back into your film stuff. Now, I just want to cover this. Now, just because you're a big paranormal sci-fi freakazoid, doesn't mean that you lean towards movies like that. I want to clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, of course, working on a film like that is awesome,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not about that for me. The one thing that has always been consistent whatever I choose to do is that I want to be in joy. Whenever I do whatever that is, I want to be happy while I'm doing it, and that can be having fun with the character, that can be having fun with the people on set. The story might be great, so it's not just the one genre factor.
You want to be able to enjoy the project and the people that are involved, and that's the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're not having fun when you're doing something, then what's the point?
Yeah, no, without a doubt. What's interesting as we're going along, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with our listeners here, is that I knew something about you, but it always happens. It never fails. Whenever I have a guest on the show, I know something about them, and it just progresses into knowing so much more about them that I look at them in a different light. Because they become more real. And I guess that's the message we try to put out there. And that's what's happening here with me speaking to you, because now you're becoming more real. And I think that's fantastic. And you have a great career ahead of you as far as films are concerned, and TV, and anything else you put your mind to. But now, what type of films would you prefer doing? Every actor, they, in their mind, they have a role that for them it's like, wow, this is I guess a certain goal that I would like to achieve as in my craft, and this their, we'll call it their dream role. Now, do you have a dream role in mind for you?
I have many dream roles.
Okay.
It was actually something that I did. I'm really big on goals and going after specifically, the things that I want, and actually made a whole list a couple years ago of everything that I ever want to play.
Okay.
And that list is pretty long, but the one thing that comes to mind whenever you first mentioned the dream role is, I think it's because I haven't been able to do it yet, is to be able to be in some kind of period piece.
Okay.
I don't know, that like just the whole. I've always been really interested in like vintage clothes. I like have this ridiculous amount of polyester, and just something that takes place in a different period than right now really interested me. And maybe that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in sci-fi stuff, because a lot of that is futuristic.
Right.
But,
Yes, it's futuristic, but for you, playing a role that it gives you the opportunity to, I guess, transport or teleport into another time period is of interest to you.
Yeah, that's a whole different experience. Not only are you in the skin of a different person, but you're in a whole different world.
Yeah.
And that's like the ultimate playing pretend,
Yeah.
in a whole different place.
And you get to dress up with all the outfits and everything, and especially if you're doing something from the 1800s, you're walking around in big dresses, and they put one of those fake wire butts on you, and then you're good to go.
Right.
But that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I think and I'm just knowing what you look like. I think that you would look like one of those cameos, those those little porcelain things.
Yeah.
With the little hat on you and everything. That'll be pretty cool. So that's pretty much your dream role. That's interesting. that's interesting. Where some people, some actors may want to land some blockbuster film type of thing and be like a Bruce Willis or something like that. You know, but your thing is more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, my goal for my career, of course, that would be wonderfully fantastic to be a huge star, but my goal has just always been just to have fun
Yeah.
and to be doing what I love and to have that help other people. You know, I would love for my work to be able to inspire other people, whether that to be, other people that are other shy kids that don't think that they can do something, because I know that I was there at one point, or whatever it is. You know, I want my work to be able to be for other people and for me to have fun while I'm doing it.
Well, I'm glad you said that because, as you know, with the show, at the end of the day, when we have our guest on, it always comes down to their inspirational journey, and your journey is inspirational not because you're an actress. That's neither here nor there. It's what you overcame to get to where you are. That is, for me, is what's interesting. Because you overcame your shyness, where a lot of kids are shy and they kind of close up when they're younger, and then as they get older, they're still in that shell. And
right.
you found a way to break past that, but you had support from your family to do certain things, and it was just that one moment. Now, before we go into what you have going on, and I need to ask this question. Actually, not a question. I'm just going to ask. Well, I guess I am going to ask you a question. I guess that's what it would be. But I want you. No, it's not a question. Haha. I want you to, for the benefit of our listeners and those that may have people in their lives that are shy, or maybe they're shy and they're in a shell and they aren't aggressive enough to go out there and stake their claim and go live their dreams. Can you send them a message? What advice would you give them?
What I would tell somebody that is in that situation or in that state of mind is that it's exactly that what you're feeling is a state of mind, and that because you are shy doesn't mean that you can't do anything like anybody else. And you were talking about overcoming the shyness. It's not something that necessarily needs to be overcome. It's something that needs to be confronted, and for you not to deny it. It needs to be accepted. It's something that is naturally in you, and that's a beautiful thing. It's just like how some people are naturally very talkative. If you're naturally a quiet person, then that's awesome. There's no black without the white.
Right.
And that's something that's a gift for you. And in confronting it, then you begin to accept that. So it's not something that ever goes away. But for you to be able to find joy in that part of you, you need to not think of it as a bad thing and go after what you really, really want. That is the main thing. Go after what you really want, and don't let anybody stop you, no matter what anybody says.
And that happens often. I mean, your message is basically saying, you're shy. Don't sit and feel bad about it. Just own it.
Exactly.
And move forward and keep going after your dreams no matter what. And again, a lot of people, they do, allow other people to put a blockade by saying, well, you can't do that, or you're out of your mind for doing that. If that was the case, first of all, we wouldn't have electricity. We would be all living in caves. A lot of things never would have happened. But it's for the journey or the strength or the desire and the dreams of the people that created all the beauty we have, all the technology, all the stuff that we have. Not the beauty, that's nature, but as far as everything else that are conveniences to us today, we wouldn't have that if people didn't forge forward. And I think that message is appropriate, and I think that's awesome. Now, we're going to go back into you, and we're going to fast forward to the present with you. But I want to get that message across to our listeners, because I think that would help them. You signed a deal with CCM this year, and you finished a horror flick called The Crypt. Now let's talk about that first before we go into your other current projects. I want to talk about the crypt.
Okay.
Talk about CCM. How did that come about with CCM?
Is very very cool how that came about. Very unexpected, actually. I always put my work on the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess my manager, his name is Scotty Ward. Scotty was helping one of his other clients with their reel, and I guess my reel kept popping up in the little sidebar on YouTube.
Right.
So eventually I was like, okay, who is this person? Clicked on me, and it's pretty much history from there. He wanted to work with me, and that was that.
Oh, well, that's cool. See, things just happen because they're supposed to happen. Okay,
Right.
I think certain things are mapped out to happen, but they don't happen when you want it to happen. They happen when they're supposed to happen, and that's what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's whenever you need it, not
Yeah.
whenever you want it.
There you go. Well, there's a big difference between want and need, and I mean, I need to eat, but maybe I want to have a gourmet meal. But you know what? If I had a slice of pizza, it would still fill me up. So, still want and the need factor. People have to separate the two because they're two different things. So now let's talk about the crypt.
Okay.
So tell us about the crypt. What role did you play? What is this movie about? And I can just just the crypt. I can try to figure it out. But let's talk about that. I saw the trailer on it, and I thought it was interesting. But definitely, let's get into it.
The Crypt is a horror film. It's a group of thieves, and I'm one of these thieves, goes into these underground crypts to basically rob them. We are grave robbers in the movie, and the dead people we're robbing from don't like it, so it causes the conflict.
And you so you were a bad girl in this movie. Yeah, you're robbing graves. Yeah, you're a bad girl. Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah, I guess I was.
Yeah. All right, so then you're robbing graves, and the ones that are resting at peace don't like it too much. So what? You have people popping out the ground. What do you have going on there?
Well, it's kind of more. I guess I would describe it more as a type of like zombie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, zombie ghost kind of. It's not really. They'll have to see it to completely understand it. But my character, her name is Adriana,
Mm-hmm.
and in the film, what's interesting is in the film I play best friends with a character named Dorian, and she's played by an actress named Kristen Irene, and I actually worked with Kristen Irene on Red Corvette, also another
Okay.
film, and we played best friends in Red Corvette as well.
So are you best friends in real life? That's the main question here.
Yeah, actually, we are now. We end up,
You see,
we
that's what
spend
happens.
so much time. Yeah, it's just what happens. And I mean, obviously, they cast us as best friends because there must naturally be a chemistry there. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we are definitely very, very good friends in real life.
See, but you know what? When something works, why mess with that? If it works for a film and it comes off good, even on television, you want to go with that flow when that chemistry is there, and that's what you guys have.
Yeah, and it wasn't. We weren't best friends going into it at all. Like we'd heard of each other because we were both actors in Arizona before we moved to LA. And we've heard of each other. We'd seen each other in class, but it was because of the films that we got close.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. See, it took a little bit for you guys to become close friends, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Now we're going to go into your other projects, and I find this interesting because you were in a play, Eight Shades of Alice, and that was this year, right?
Yeah, that was this year.
Yeah, you did a complete run of that. Is that for you? I know the difference because I'm not retarded, but for you, for you, is it much different for you to be on stage in front of a live audience than being on set or being on the big screen? Did you find that for you to be more difficult, or was it more satisfying?
I guess I would say that for this play specifically, it was more satisfying because I do feel like film is my forte, and that is what I meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
But theater was something I hadn't completely confronted. Most you hear, a lot of actors, they came from theater, and that's like, their first love is theater. I also came from theater, but as part of the shyness, I was always a techie, so I was always the sound person. I wrote and directed plays. I was never the person on stage.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that courage yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was something that I really wanted to experience and confront, since it was something I was kind of avoiding. And it was really, really satisfying to be able to go through the entire process, see the differences between the two mediums, and be able to realize that, yeah, I can totally do this, and there's nothing wrong with me.
But that's pretty interesting, and again, you understand the nuts and bolts of filmmaking, from filming to editing and so on and so forth, with the lighting, all that stuff, whether it be on stage or just in general. You understand how all that stuff works. And for me, it's incredible, because we had David Webb. He's a radio show host, but he's also on Fox News, and he's a great guy. And we had a long conversation, but something that he said which holds true, and I'm going to say that here, because this is what has made him successful, because he is a big success in what he does. He's been in radio for a ton of years. And he is well respected and well renowned for what he does. But he said that he was taught, when he was doing his radio thing, he was going for a bigger job, because he was in Z100 in New York, which is a big market at some point, and he was going for a job, and the guy told him, we're not going to hire you, and he didn't understand why. And I think the story goes that he heard from someone that was in the business for a long time, and they said, don't forget your roots. Go back, learn how to do radio, from learning the board to how this works and how that works and how that works. You have a complete understanding of what happens in mechanics. You do that, you will be in this business for the rest of your life, and you'll be successful. That's what you're doing. That's what you did, and I think that's fascinating, because when he told me that, I said, wow. Even for me, I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, because yeah, I can do all this stuff, but a lot of people can't. So that kind of makes you unique, that you can actually direct a movie if you wanted to.
Yeah, I actually did do a while ago, but it was years ago. But I actually did do a short. It was a ridiculous little comedy. But yeah, and especially because that was something that I had originally intended to do, and I learned everything that I could about it up until when I decided that I was going to act. It definitely helps whenever I'm on set, and there may be other actors that have no idea what's going on. They don't understand why they're putting that light over there, or why they may have to put the camera on the other side of the actor for continuity, or whatever it is. And I think that most actors, as they are, or anybody that's going on in their field, and as they become a master at what they're doing, they understand all those technical aspects of it, and that's what makes them great.
Yeah, and that's I find that to be a great trait that you have, that anyone, and look, it just goes to the thing that we talked about earlier. You did your research, do your due diligence, learn as much about what you're doing as possible. Modeling, I'm sure that you didn't just study, a Allure magazine or whatever you were reading. You went out and you said, okay, well, why do they move this way? Why do they move that way? Why are they bending their leg? Why are they doing this? How's the lighting? I'm sure you figured out how photographers work and what they're looking for, and how you can do this and how you can do that. That makes you better at what you do, and you did the same thing with acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. And I'm just going to throw this little note in. I was talking to Samir Banout and Banut. He's a former Mr. Olympia, and he was telling me too. I spoke to him the other day. He said, yeah, even right now, people in bodybuilding, I'm going to this reference because it's with lighting and everything, that bodybuilders, Sometimes now they don't understand how everything works. Way back when there was who was it? Bill Pearl, that he knew what worked for him because he understood all the lighting and everything. That he would strike a pose and stay there. He wouldn't move the other way because the lighting just hit him the right way. That he gave the best showing, and he knew that because he understood how all the lighting worked. Now, even with acting, if you understand why the light is here and why is this there, when you even though you're following direction from the director, it'll make his job easier because now he's telling you to move here for this light. You can say, okay, well, this light is here. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of something that one of my acting coaches told me, and it's something that I have also strived to live by, and that is that as actors, your ultimate goal is to be non-directable because you know everything, because you understand. Obviously, you want to collaborate with the director and all that, but it reminds me of the difference between theater and film. Once again, I've heard other actors that have come from theater. They're used to a lot of interaction and a lot of feedback with the director. Just because that's how theater is. At the end of every rehearsal, you get notes, you talk about the role, you do a lot of stuff. But in film, you don't really get, you you might not get any rehearsal at all. Mostly you won't. And sometimes the director just he won't have time to give you feedback. You do a good job, and they're just like, all right, let's go. And that's something that is, I know that's bothered some of the people that I've worked with, that, well, I don't even know if I did a good job. And I guess for me, because I understand more of all the processes of the whole thing, it's okay to me, and I actually kind of feel good because I'm like, wow, I didn't have to get direction today. That's cool. I did it myself.
Yeah, but that means that you understood what was happening, and I mean, look, from being in modeling, and you know this, that if you have a photographer and he guides you with the shot that he wants, but if he has to go and position your arms and everything a certain way for you to get a certain look, it's more difficult for him to do his job. And it's more costly if he's working for a magazine to get the shots that he needs for his client. So if you're out there and he says, well, I need you to look a certain way, and you say, okay, this, that, and you know what he's looking for, it makes his job much easier. Same thing on set. You make the job of the director much easier. Okay, and that's why I said this before, and I'll say it again. That's why I know that you will, and talking to you now, I know. You don't say anything, I know that you will be successful in what you're doing because you understand it, and you did your homework. You're doing all of that, and if you understand something, yeah, how can you fail? You can't, especially if you have the drive, which you have. You'll make everything happen. Now we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna talk this little segment right here, or this part of the interview, or the part of the show. It goes out to all those comic book lovers from coast to coast, like butter on toast. If you like comic books and stuff like that, and even to the promoters of Comic-Con, okay, that they're all over the place, they're all over the world, and they need to hear this too. You have a comic book renderer that actually they drew some comics or comic book character in your likeness. I'm interested in hearing about that.
It's really interesting. Well, the comic is called The Villicon Chronicles, and it was a comic in existence way before I came along. The creator, his name is Brian Kinnaird, and he is from Arizona. So when I was in Arizona and beginning my acting career and going to school and all that, I ended up going and auditioning for Villicon Chronicles. I had no idea what it was. But apparently, when Brian came up with the whole idea for the Villicon Chronicles universe, it was something that he really wanted to have made into a film. But at the time, it just wasn't going to be possible. So he ended up collaborating with his friend Roy Young, and Roy is the one that has drawn like almost all the comics. And they made comics out of it. But it ended up being an underground hit, and because of that, they were able to have the funding to make the films out of it. So not all the films have been made. They casted the film, and I play the ship's computer.
You play the computer?
Yeah, my character's name is Kimry Tryon, and she's the Sector Hollow Command Chief. So she's kind of like, have you played Halo?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, actually, did I play? Yeah, I did play that. Check me out. Yeah, yes, I did.
There's the little computer that pops up that lets everybody know what's going on.
Ah.
It's kind of like me. Kind of like me in the film.
So you pop up. You like one of those pop-up things, like a pop-up ad in the movie.
Yeah. Kind of.
You kind of. But that's pretty cool because that kind of satisfies your sci-fi urges.
Yeah. I don't know if they're satisfied, but
Yeah.
they're.
But at least you get a taste of stuff, and that's good.
Yeah, absolutely. It was so fun. It's really cool to see what's happening with it because we filmed, and I remember on set when we were filming, they had to take pictures of us. Everybody that was cast in the film, they took pictures of all different angles of us because after we did the film, they told us that they were going to start drawing the characters like us, which is really exciting.
Right.
So there's actually a series that's out right now. It's called Silicon Chronicles Proclivity, and I think that you can get it at it's totally for free to download at ViliconChronicles.com.
Okay, and then they can see you on there, the rendering of you. That's pretty cool to be a comic book, being a comic book.
Yeah.
I'm jealous. I want to be in a comic book. They'll probably throw me in Mad Magazine or something. I don't know.
Going Garfield.
Yeah, I'll be Garfield. I'll be a dog or a cat or some mouse or something.
Lou the cat.
Yeah, Lou the cat. Meow. But but yeah, that's pretty cool though because how many people can say, hey, you know what? I have a comic book character that's rendered after me.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy also because apparently you can get my character on a stamp. So you can buy Joanna Ke on a stamp at I think there's all kinds of Vilicon Chronicles merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's on Zazzle.com. If you search for Vilicon Chronicles, you'll be able to find the store. And there I am. I'm Kimry Tryon on a stamp.
Oh, that is pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. See, you're on a stamp, comic book. Yeah, you have a lot of things going on. See, that's why your story is, as we move forward, is getting more and more interesting. And I love the fact that you have all these things going on. And as I said, this is only the beginning and whatnot. But now, what I need to do is I need to ask you, is there anything that you have going on now that we haven't covered? Do you have a new movie you're working on? We'll talk about your website in a second, but do you have a new movie going on that you're working on that hasn't come out yet or anything like that?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Obviously, the Vilicon Chronicles that we just talked about, that should be coming out late next year.
Yeah, and for our listeners, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. For our listeners, you'll be able to go on Joanna's page on ucwmagazine.com, and we will have the link on there, so you can go there and get your Joanna Ke stamp. That's way cool. But go ahead, continue.
So that's coming out next year, and then I have another film. It's called Ave Maria, and that's also coming out on DVD next year. I'll be filming in November. There's a film called Trixie Woo that I'll be filming with my good friend Jimmy Flowers and Matt Payton. And Matt was actually one of the people that I went to school with whenever I was learning to be a director.
Oh, cool.
That never fully culminated.
And he's a director. He's directing the film.
Yes, he's the director and the producer. And
cool.
We're filming that in mid-November.
Oh, cool. We're going to have to get him on the show to talk about this film, because now you're in it, so now we have to talk about it.
That'd be very cool.
Yeah, but you see what you did? You started this thing now. Now we had you on the show, now we have to have him, all this stuff. Anyway, continue.
There's one other thing that I am super, super excited about, and unfortunately I can't tell you everything about it, because it's one of those things where I can't say everything. But I will tell you is that I'm working on a new project for the Sci-Fi Channel.
Awesome.
And,
aha! Yeah. Sci-Fi! There you go! All right, cool. Cool, and that's something you're working on. I know you can't get into it because you have certain restrictions and what you can and can't talk about. I understand that. Our listeners understand that. But what can you tell us? Anything at all?
Unfortunately, I wish I could. I wish I could just tell you everything about it, but all that I can tell you is that it's the Sci-Fi Channel, and details will be coming out soon. If people sign up with my newsletter or my blog, as soon as I know anything, then I'll be sending it out and letting people know. Or not, as soon as I am able to tell everybody.
As soon as you're legally able to speak about XYZ, you will. Because as all listeners should understand, when you are in negotiations or pre-negotiations, whatever you're in, it's at a point when you're looking to take on a role. It's best not to say anything about it until you got it nailed down. Because first of all, you probably jinx yourself. Second of all, it's not legal. Because then you have a problem. And not only do you not get the role, but then you have an issue on top of that. So not a good thing. But if any of our listeners want to get updates, they can go to your official site.
Yes.
And what is that?
It's www.joannake.com.
Joanna with 2 N's and Ke, Ke.com. And what about your blog?
I also have a blog, and that is updated regularly. It's at WordPress. I believe the address is joannake.wordpress.com.
That's right. You're absolutely correct, and I know that. I have that information. Ha And now, what about because a lot of people, especially nowadays in this environment that we're in, we have social networking, which is everyone embraces this. You have your Crackberry and everything else, and no one can do without this stuff. And I'm no different because I do it. It's like I never wanted to get involved in it, but I did, and I guess this is the life we live. But what about Twitter? Are you a tweeter? Are you one of those Twitter birds?
I am. It was such a crazy concept to me. I didn't understand it until like a few months ago, but I am on there, and I'm starting to tweet a lot more.
Cool. And what's your
the right word?
yeah. Tweeting is the thing. You don't want to say I'm sending you a message, because then you'll have these Twitterholics that'll go and they'll rip you apart. They'll say you said that wrong, Joanna. You said it wrong. You're not saying it right. You're tweeting. So now what's your Twitter name, so people, if they're interested in following your career, following what you're doing, they can actually follow you?
It is Joanna_Ke.
Okay, that's Joanna, JOANNA_KE, Ke on Twitter. Follow her. Keep updated with what she has going on. Her journey is just beginning. And honestly, Joanna, your journey to this point is awesome. And the greatest thing about it is that you're just beginning for all intents and purposes. You've done your films and everything, but you are just coming out of the box, and you have a lot of projects lined up, and your career is going to continue to grow. And my opinion is that your future is as bright as the sun, and that's what I see. And I'm not saying that because I'm trying to get brownie points. I'm saying it because this is how I feel. And any of our listeners hear the show, I always say what's on my mind, what I truly feel. Sometimes if I don't say anything, then be concerned, because then that means that I'm not thinking too much about it. But usually on our show we have people that have inspirational stories like yours. They overcome certain things, certain hurdles in their life, and your shyness, you overcame that. Okay, but not so much overcame. You embraced it. You owned it, and you figured out how to separate yourself from it, so you can be successful in what you do. So a shy kid, 16 years old, in the lunchroom, sitting in a corner by herself, all of a sudden, you're breaking out, and you can be one of the great actors of our time. And I think that's fantastic. And I really want to thank you so much for being with us today on the UCW radio show. I want to extend an open invitation to you, because I really want to follow up with you as your career progresses, as I know it will be awesome. That's if it's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I really appreciate your kind words. It means a lot to me, and it means a lot to me that you even wanted to interview me today. So, yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, you have you see, one thing, and I'll just say this, that I think that, and I'm guilty of this as well, that a lot of people don't realize what they've done in their lives because they're too busy living their life and moving forward. And you don't have the time to sit and smell the roses, stand back and smell the roses and say, okay, I did this. You don't have the time to revel in it because you're still forging forward. And you'll look at this in 30 years and you'll look back, you'll say, okay, I did some stuff. And I'm proud of that. I'm happy. I don't have regrets of I shoulda, coulda, woulda. And you followed your dream. You could have just stood in school and took up directing and stood with that and stood behind the camera and never fulfilled what you want to do. I mean, look at you now. This is an example for any of our listeners out there that want to see yet another example of someone following their dream and not letting any blockades get in their way. You know, you move from Houston, go to Arizona, you go from Arizona, you go to LA. What changes? And now look at where you're headed. And you have great things going on, and I pat you on the back for that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, you know, we want to have you back on, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, that's wonderful. We will have you back on because I know in the coming months that you're going to have a lot of awesome things happening, and we want to have you back on. And as I said, you know, we probably have to have the director guy that you're working with in November on the show now because you mentioned him, and I don't want him crying in a corner saying, I wasn't on the show either, but that's okay. That happens. But now our listeners can follow Joanna Ke's career by going to our official website at joannake.com. That's JoannaAke.com, or check out our official blog. That's joannake.wordpress.com. If you're on Twitter, go to Joanna_Ke. Look her up, follow her career. It's going to be an amazing ride. And for those Hollywood types, those directors that want to have her as a part of your project, you know, she's open to hearing ideas and everything, but you need to go to her manager. That's why she has it, because she has a lot of things going on. So get in touch with him. The website is ccmtalent.com. His name is Scotty Ward. He's a great guy. Get in touch with him and try to work with Joanna Ke, because she's going to be one of the greats as we move forward in the coming years. And that's about it for this edition of UCW Radio. Thank you for being with us.
Initiating shutdown sequence.
What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.